So Rao, do you want to kick off with the tech update?
Yeah, so there's the link to community update 224. The update this week mostly is of, many of the tasks are continuing from where they were last week. But the team is making progress with completing the finalization and doing the refactoring necessary for those for moving forward with the finalization work. And one of the things that Tomislav was kind of distracted by was a bug that he needed to fix on the mainnet. So that is fixed, and the observer nodes on the mainnet are already updated with it. And I suspect Gurinder and Ian may be updating the validators right now. But anyway, it'll be done sometime today. The Nutzipper has continued to work on getting ready for the finalization piece. What needs to happen now is that Tomislav has to complete the last part of his finalization fringe work, and then Nutzipper is going to use that to adjust the merging of the block states or state merging within the thing, and that will complete that cycle. Then there is some work to be done there to look at blocks that are going to be ignored because they didn't meet all the criteria, basically the invalid blocks. So there's some work there that needs to be done. So that is something that Tomislav will be working on, and then that will be merged back into the full code base. That's the piece that needs to happen for the finalization work at this point in time. There are a few other things I'm going to actually share. Hopefully you can see this. Let me see. You guys should be seeing some PR list right now. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. So there is all this work going on with this, creating a trade for key segment and all the work around the key segment. This is all, and then merging based on finalization fringe. These are all pieces that relate to preparing for the finalization work, so that when that last piece comes from Tomislav, then it will be deployed together. The other piece of work that's going on is around deploy status. Now with the finalization fringe, how we calculate the deploy status and how we communicate that to the user is different. So there's work around that, and Stas is working on binding that. The deploy status work itself is done right now. He's working on binding that to all the interfaces, the gRPC, the web API, and the CLI. And the Will is continuing to work on this system contract updates, making the registry update and making that as a soft fork. And then as part of that, he's also looking at some of these other things around the POS vault, pub key parameters issues that he discovered in the process. So those are the main tasks that are going on at the moment. There is also movement on the, I'll go to the issues tab. There's movement on this BigInt implementation. Dennis has taken a look at the whole task, and he's done some research to look at how does Scala do BigInt, how does Java do BigInt, and how do we want to do it, within the context of rholang integer, which is a 64-bit integer within that range. So he, go through that document to understand where the thinking is now and what we're implementing first, and what we will implement later. One of the things, for example, when you're dealing with the BigInt is how do we deal with overflow, meaning like, when you have a lot of numbers still. So the idea is that we will deal with that as an error handling, but then give the option to specify rounding, for example, in the configuration. So we'll have a couple of different configuration parameters around BigInt as to how it behaves. But the core implementation will say, it will kick out as an error, but it's not an error necessarily that the user sees, but that would be caught at the configuration level as to how the behavior should happen. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does, but read through the document and put any comments you might have, especially those of you that have asked for BigInt. If you see any issues with how we're thinking about implementing that and how we're prioritizing what we will do in that feature first and what we will do next. So if you have any comments on that, please do give us some feedback on that. The other task I referred to last week, the new random seed, introducing the new random seed for rholang deploy. That's Will and I believe Max are working on that at this point, or Max is beginning to look at that. And then this has not been started on yet to include latest block number in the status API, but that's something that we will be doing. So there's a lot of all these items that were, in some cases, were asked for some time ago. We're trying to catch whatever we can there to move things towards a place where it's the developers have most of what they were asking for, even as we continue the work with the finalization and block merge. So that's what's going on primarily there. I'm going to now switch back to my original notes. I think as far as development is concerned, that's kind of a high-level view of where we're spending our time. In addition, the work with the enterprise customers continues. We started engaging with another kind of a smaller systems integrator developer group that are bringing or talking about some interesting projects. So we started engaging with them also. And so all of that should help traffic on the mainnet, as well as actual use cases on the mainnet that will.
Raul, you're quiet.
I'm sorry. I get if I don't look at my speaker, someone doesn't communicate my voice. Yeah. So these external projects actually give a different kind of validation to the code base, both from a usability standpoint as well as figuring out what we need to do in terms of additional features, or what in the existing features. Where should be focusing on, like, whether something needs to be performance improved or things like that. So it's a very good exercise to improve the platform overall and make it be more usable. So that's overall where the team has been spending time on. With that, are there any questions, comments on any of this?
I'm curious as to whether or not there's an update on issue number 3700.
Issue number 3700, let me look.
This is the rholang map performance.
Oh, I'm not sure if you were there last week. So we did, yeah, there is that, everything was documented there as to what Dennis has found. What we came to the conclusion was that the piece that can be implemented at this time is not going to give a whole lot of improvement unless we do a whole bunch of other things there around rholang performance improvement that were originally scheduled for the second half. So we captured the data, the research, and the learning that we got as to, okay, here are the things to do to improve the performance of rholang in general, but then actual implementation will happen after we're done with this block merge stuff. So that's at this time, that's not being worked on other than capturing, having captured the data and the research. But it is something we'll come back to under the rholang 1.1 implementation. I mean, the big thing that came out of there is that unless we actually do the full rholang 1.1 implementation, whatever we do here is, you know, just yak shaving. It's not really going to give any performance improvements that are you know, visible in a significant way to the user. So that's kind of where we are with that. So Dennis has now moved on to big int implementation, having completed or having put the rholang map task on hold.
Okay. I also noticed in your summary, there was a bullet point that said a large number of hard fork 3 features have been moved into hard fork 2 now. And I know that hard fork 2 was scheduled for first half. I'm wondering if that schedule changes because of the inclusion of the hard fork 3 features.
No, it's that it's the other way around. The features that have been primarily scheduled for hard fork 2 have taken enough time that we could dispatch the other features while we're working on those.
Yeah, I mean, basically the reason we're still calling it hard fork 2 rather than hard fork 3 is because in sense of sequence, it is still the second hard fork, right? We have done one hard fork before, and this will be the second one. But basically this is a combination of both hard fork 2 and hard fork 3 features.
Yeah,
so at this time, a hard fork 3 is more of an emergency thing. Like say if we did everything and tested everything and then got everything on the mainnet, but then we suddenly, if we discover that, oh, you know, that we need to do something else to make everything work right, that is hard fork 3 is now, it's not planned, but there's a if there is some kind of an emergency, we might do it that way as a hard fork 3, but hopefully not.
But to answer your question, Bill, hard fork 2 is not being pushed out because we moved the hard fork 3 features into hard fork 2. Hard fork 2.
That is the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Rob? Okay, so Anton, aka Nutzipper, is going to give us a demo, I believe. Is that right?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Sure, so I want to just quickly share a middleware that is intended to be used over different clients and to be able to integrate into data pipelines and push them down to our node. So let me share. Let me spin up the node. So I just started the node in my local host. Here you can see the ID with the source code. Here you can see the management console of the RabbitMQ server. So I spinned up RabbitMQ with the Docker. It's running on my machine. Here is the node. It minted Genesis. Now it's available. And here you can see the simple application. It is basically a test publisher, which emits each 5 seconds into the RabbitMQ topic, just some string, go, and we can have here, a consumer. Consumer, here you can see the types. The AMPQ envelope comes here, and then it goes through the pipe. Through some pipe, you can define your own pipe. Now it's just does some deploy with some arbitrary string. Let's start the node and see what's happening. So these consumer strings should read from a topic over the RabbitMQ. That's it, basically. You can see this
Nice.
publisher emits a go, this consumer reads from this topic, transforms the payload, and here you can see that some string goes inside the deploy into the chain. So by writing your own data pipe.
Cracking the Code viewers. 2 weeks ago, we hosted the always amazing
Oh my God.
Michelangelo Badio right here in our humble Cracking.
Amazing. So this is the whole the whole demo. Later we will add here the listening for data. So we are going to push data in this deploy to some known channel, and we can attach some stream listening to this channel and emit these inside the same middleware to the RabbitMQ topic. So with this middleware, we can attach all the data syncs and detach our system from the outer world. So you can just expose some RabbitMQ and make it transparent from the user perspective. So this is a nice way. Greg was suggesting this way to be used.
Yeah. So what it,
scenarios.
Yeah, exactly. So what it does is it allows us to accept input asynchronously. And Rabbit is incredibly fast and basically bulletproof. So like 15 years ago, Rabbit was doing demos of running video streams over Rabbit. Real-time video streams over Rabbit. So they're incredibly fast, and they've been beaten on now for a good 15 years. So it's quite a solid product, and allows us to be 100% responsive, right? So any client that wants to submit large data chunks to the chain can submit them to the RabbitMQ, and it will be immediately responsive. And then we can deliver them on chain in whatever fashion makes the most sense. In future, we can, if we want, we can even enlist Rabbit as a participant in the chain transaction. So that's a future feature, but it's definitely something that is something that we could do, because we can co-opt the X8 transaction stuff for multiple resource transactions to extend the transaction all the way out to the Rabbit queues. With that said, if you don't mind, I'll steal the screen back.
Sure.
Thanks. So I'll just quickly give people a picture of what we're talking about here. All right, can everyone see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a picture of what we're talking about. So you can imagine that some client is dropping either a large volume of data or data that comes in large chunks like video, or some combination, lots of high volume of large data chunks. So Rabbit ends up being the buffer. So the data goes into Rabbit, and then the process that Nutzipper just demonstrated picks the stuff up off of the RabbitMQ topics and deposits those onto channels. So it will do whatever processing step is necessary. So if you want to take the data, for example, and parse it into some JSON object that you then turn into a rholang object, that happens at this step. And then it's turned into a deploy, which hits the chain and then runs a topic. And this shows one of the other values of the chain that I don't think people quite understand. So our smart contracts are actually workflow related contracts. So you imagine that you want to write a workflow that's contingent upon receiving some events, right? So those events are published as data going to RabbitMQ topics. Those topics are then the data at those topics are then turned into publications against channels, and then the smart contract wakes up when and only when the conditions, the events match what its expectations are. And then you run the workflow, which is the smart contract. And then you, in the case that you actually have an output, you'll put it back out to via a reversal, the dual to this process, who will then listen for the data at a given node, and then put it back out to a RabbitMQ topic. So that's a picture of what, so Anton just demonstrated the inbound process. There's a corresponding outbound process. Does that make sense to everyone? To anyone?
It does, to me it does.
No, it makes sense to me.
Okay.
I do have a question concerning RabbitMQ performance. And I know it's quite good. Do we have any understanding what the differential is between RabbitMQ performance and, say, BitTorrent performance?
I don't know a comparison between BitTorrent and Rabbit, but BitTorrent has different characteristics, right? Rabbit is exactly once in order, and BitTorrent does not guarantee that. So Rabbit offers you three properties, right? So TCP gives you exactly once in order, but it doesn't give you durability. So if you cut the connection, the packets are lost. Rabbit gives you exactly once in order, durable. And if you want, you can even put it in a transactional wrapper. So right now we're not including it in the smart contract transaction, but we could extend that transaction all the way out to Rabbit, right? Which is, again, this is not something that the other chains offer. They're not even thinking about this. So that's why I would not compare it to BitTorrent, because BitTorrent does not give you this exactly once in order guarantees.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Anton. Great demo. Hopefully people are getting sort of what our value adds are. Daryl, do you want to do the week in review?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Hey, everybody. Here is the week in review for May 12th to May 18th. On Friday in the Climate and Coordination RCast, we discussed the 1.5 degree warming threshold, see Ross Talbot's spiritual experience with Bertrand Russell, and Jim Whitescarver continued the conversation from last week, along with another guest, Art Kleiner. On Monday in the Casper stand-up, they covered an explicit encoding of reversibility. This provides an equation AI specification for a debugging capability for rholang.
Equational.
Okay. Somehow it came up as equation AI. Okay, equational specification for a debugging capability for rholang. It also provides the basis for the interpretation of cup and cap diagrammatic combinators in Cook and Kissinger's diagrammatic process language.
It's Kuka. Just
Kuka. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, so yesterday in the communications working group, the discussion was primarily around communicating the strategic partnership investment opportunity. Also, we discussed simplifying the front page of the website, which we're probably going to do later this afternoon. And this morning in the RChain active member hangout, Jim described some thoughts he has had to creating an LCA focused around recording kilowatt hours of renewable energy on the blockchain. And then he started talking about an article he's writing regarding computational biology and quantum gravity and the user agent. And Jim and Bill had a long discussion on all things quantum physics and computational biology, etc. And that brings us to now.
Thank you. So Bill, I know you had been interested, at least last year you expressed significant interest in debugging tools for rholang.
Oh my God, what a joy that would be.
Yeah, so the recent Casper discussions, I've provided a spec for how to do that. So it's very straightforward, but it has these other advantages, right? That it connects to a diagrammatic language for processes that was developed by Kuka and Kissinger. So you might want to take a look at those Casper stand-ups.
Was that in this past Mondays? Is that where I need to go?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it was
All right.
developed. It was developed over, but I actually write the code down in this past Mondays, so people can.
Oh my God, you wrote code?
It's amazing.
You have
I'll
time to write code?
Well, it was a performance act, so I did it in real time in front of an audience. Steve, you're here on the call. Did you?
I am. I heard that you'd done the Rabbit stuff. And I heard there was an update from Rao, but Bill's filled me in on the chat, so I know what's gone before.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, it's so the ingestion side is done, and the depositing side or the production side is almost done, if I've understood Anton correctly.
So
What was that?
I was just saying, you have that MQ to R node step, which I presume is primarily a marshalling layer to marshal the MQ to rholang objects and back.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Yeah, thinking of it as marshalling is the right way to think about it. Yeah, I mean, it's slightly different than marshalling because we don't normally think of marshalling as out of process. So if I return to the diagram here, hang on a second. So normally marshalling is something that you do in process, right? So if this is where the data is deposited, then marshalling would go all the way to here. But what we have is something that's effectively doing marshalling. So, but it's not. It's a separate process. It's not running in the node, right? So it's got subscriptions to the Rabbit topics, picks up whatever is on the Rabbit topics, and then does whatever parsing or whatever you want, which is effectively marshalling, and then turns that into a deployment that goes against the chain. Yeah,
that's a gateway, I guess.
Yeah, you can think of it as a gateway. That's another way to think about it. That's right.
So longer term, that gateway, so to speak, would be turned into an endpoint inside an actual R node?
No, I think it's better to keep this separate, right? From a microservices point of view, this is a microservice. Node does what it does well, and this is like this knows how to talk to Node and talk to Rabbit. So it's got its own job, including this as a part of Node. I think would only make Node more complicated, and not everybody wants to talk to Node via Rabbit. So it's more compositional. It's more Unix pipey like this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is this looks like a pipe?
Yeah, that's right.
I also wanted to mention the smart contract call on Saturday, where we made progress toward capability transport. We had a live coding session where Dan created a VAT on RChain.
Sweet.
To receive the CAPTP protocol. the first step in actually supporting CapTP.
Very good. That's great news. That's really cool. Okay. So I did want to say the board meeting was largely informational. However, we had some very good engagement from a group, from an investment group, and I won't say much more about it than that, but we'll talk about the details in the closed door session. So I did mention some of this in last Friday's closed door sessions, but we've taken next steps with that group. So we'll talk more about that in the closed door sessions. Let's see if there's anything else that I can mention here. I don't think so. So any other questions, comments, concerns, considerations from the community at this time?
Every now and then I like to get an update on the relationship with FIQUS. How is that going?
Good. We need to engage them more, but we're super slammed, and so it's hard to get them engaged at the level that we need to. It's like we need to engage them more so we're not so slammed, but because we're so slammed, it's hard to engage them more.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is a good problem to have. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Please.
I'd like to introduce something. I'm going to be in the hospital on Monday, so I won't be able to attend Casper.
Okay.
But I just want to introduce the this article that I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Which essentially is a proof that the recursively solvable problems are equal to the set of all possible languages, which is essentially that P equals NP.
No, it's not P equals NP.
Okay.
It's not P equals NP.
Okay, basically what they do is they use a quantum mechanism where they're able to use a classical verifier to solve intractable problems. And it's like where we have the quantum mechanics here. Well, what you were showing already is that in rholang is even more powerful than entanglement. And we could do a similar kind of thing using rholang is what I was thinking. But
yeah, no, I didn't say that rholang is more powerful than entanglement. What I've been trying to the simplest way to understand what I'm doing is, can I get a faithful model, a faithful computational interpretation of quantum mechanics in rholang, or in a suitably modified rholang, where we now think of parallel composition as a form of tensor, right? That's the trick that I've been sort of marching towards steadily. But the paper you're talking about was a part of these landmark results in 2020 that kind of took the world by storm, because it knocked out a bunch of classical mathematical problems all at the same time. And it involves using multiple verifiers that use correlation. So they use quantum entanglement to get certain kinds of correlation amongst the verifiers. I was more familiar with the results 2 years ago. I'd have to go reread them to page them back in. But I know the papers you're talking about. They're very, very important and interesting papers. But unfortunately, it's not P equals NP.
All right.
Yeah,
I guess, what we have in rholang is that we have non-locality, which opens up the possibilities of some of this stuff.
Yeah, for some notion of locality, I can now describe what non-local correlations means for a given notion of locality. Now, whether that notion of locality is the same sort of non-locality you get with Bell's inequality, that's a different story, right? But at least for some notion of non-locality, I can now describe that in detail. I can tell you what's going on mathematically. But we have a long way to go before we can make rholang into a quantum programming language. But I'm hoping that we can. Yeah.
Do you want a brief RPC update?
I would love one, Steve.
Okay, so before I say the RPC update, two things. Today, Bertrand Russell would have been 150 years old, which is quite interesting, given that Daryl mentioned that. And also, he shares his birthday with the person that introduced me to you, which is Alexis Richards, whose birthday is today. But I didn't know he shared the same birthday as Bertrand Russell. He'll be very pleased to know that, I'm sure. So RPC, mainnet went live. There's been lots of chat on personally to me about from rev holders seeking to make sure that they're correctly airdropped because there were this 2 snapshot issue that we did. So those on the call that are in that boat as well, message me directly on Discord or put it in the airdrop channel, because next week I'm going to start the process of forensically examining people's claims where the tokens they got in the airdrop didn't match what they expected, probably because of this double snapshot thing that we did. And then I'll be looking to put together a plan to put in front of the RPC board, and if that's verified, then that will give me the authorization to ensure that there is a second transfer of RPC rev to those that need to be made whole. So that process will start next week. But it won't end.
I would like to follow up.
Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
I would like to follow up and say I've put into the chat here the link to the RPC wallet so that you can check your balance. So if you go to that link and you put in your rev address and you check your balance, the number that you get back will be the amount of the airdrop you have received. So that number is going to be important moving forward as we do this forensic discovery process.
Cool. And the only other thing just to report to everybody is I had a number of meetings during the course of the week on the sort of investment front. We're targeting, I don't really want to reveal who I've been talking to at this point, but with the help of that person in particular, we're hoping to get to a fairly significant Web 3.0 investor in Hong Kong, who's quite well known. So we have quite a concrete plan to do that. We reviewed all of the investment material, and I think probably next week I will make at least the deck that explains what we're doing. I don't think I want to make the numbers visible, but at least the deck that would be the sales deck available to everybody in the community. So we'll make sure that we put that in an appropriate place and then let you know next week. And we're working hard to get an early beta for our drive into people's hands. And we're working towards getting an early beta for the NFT marketplace in people's hands. Not quite sure precisely when that will be, but I'm hoping it won't be several months, that's for sure. It might be several weeks, but it won't be several months.
It's Q3.
No, the beta drop that Theo's doing.
Yeah.
Just the beta drop, not the live. So this would be on testnet, not. This would be a beta on a testnet, not on mainnet.
Yeah.
And we're looking at other ways to accelerate that, but yeah, that's currently what's sort of going on.
Very good. Gurinder, are you on the call? I see your square, but I don't know if you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
Oh, I just I direct message you in the chat here on the Zoom call. I was wondering if you could circle around with Bill. That would be grateful. I'd be very grateful.
One last thing, I think very relevant to people in the community. If you want to set up your own shard in the way that RPC has done and have your own tokens and stuff like that, if that's something you want to do, potentially connecting that shard into mainnet, RChain's mainnet in the future, there's a whole set of processes you need to go through. Fortunately, RPC has done all those processes. We've been through the fire
Yes.
with our RChain colleagues, and we've got burnt feet as a result. And as a result of that, you won't get burnt feet. You will be able to do that relatively simply. And
Expert firewalker.
Yes, all of the documentation to make that happen it is public in the GitHub, or will be very shortly. And the person to reach out to would be Bill, who headed all of that. And that includes everything about starting the nodes, about all the key management that you have to have, the processes that you have to put in place to ensure that it's up 24/7, 365 days, and you could get some sleep. That's a very important one. So
Yes.
all of that's been pretty much sorted out, and that's all available to the community to try and do that. And the more shards, the better.
I will also say that we have had very serious conversations now with someone who would like to step into the COO role. I can talk a little bit more about that person in the closed door sessions, but we're getting down to the point where the person wants to shadow my meetings to see what my week is like, to help to begin to share some of the burden as a COO.
Did we make an invite, or did they make an offer?
It's been a mutual negotiation over the last month and a half.
Okay. Good news.
Yes, because we're reaching the point where the operational details of managing all the enterprise projects, together with our relationships with our subsidiaries and our partners, together with maintaining the network itself, is way more than one person can sanely handle. So yes. All right, very good. Unless there's any other burning issues, I would like to thank everyone for their time and attention. Please stay safe. Do enjoy the springtime, and we will see you on the other side.
Take care.